Let's talk about... I know, it finished airing about a month ago. I'm a little late to the party, but better late than never. I'd obviously seen all the memes, but I didn't really know where they were coming from, nor did I actually hear much about the show since, well, I'll confess I'm not the biggest superhero fan in the world, so I naturally don't spend much time in their communities, and when I did finally hear of it I was kind of hesitant to check it out, but holy shit am I glad I did, because this show was ironically right up my alley. I enjoyed the hell out of it. So much so that I actually reconsidered my preconceptions about superheroes, and yes, I will watch The Boys. I think the reason was that the genre is literally one of the most popular ever when it comes to the setting, and what we associate it with are the most generic, boring blockbuster movies in the world. But I also blame myself. I was kind of the there's no good music these days type of person that doesn't actually listen to anything that's below 100 million views on YouTube. But that's a topic for another time. Now make sure to leave if you haven't watched the show because I'll spoil everything. Also come back after you finish it and let's talk about... Okay, I'm sorry, I'll stop now. It's just fun, I can't help it. Invincible does a great job of balancing the people part of the story with the superhero part, much like how most zombie stories do with the zombie part and the internal politics of the humans part. So let's get into that story. Firstly, we have Mark's realization of what it's really like to be a superhero. With great power comes great responsibility. Not just in a literal sense, but in an emotional one too. If you want to save people and can do it, and there are people to be saved, and you don't save all the people that you can, you'll probably feel terrible. The show emphasizes this amazingly by constantly showing so much gore and destruction and death. It really seems like something that could completely ruin a person. And in the real world there absolutely would be people that would be better off not being superheroes, even if they're all good people and being a superhero was inherently positive. Next, Mark not telling Amber about him being invincible might be the most I've ever been blue-balled in a show. She just keeps getting angry at him, understandably so, but he doesn't want to tell her for one reason or another. And we all thought that it'd all be fixed the moment he finally does. Yet when it happens, she knows? I mean, really? Why the hell get pissed off when he left to literally save lives then? Perhaps to make him finally tell her, but no way. She's actually crying. I mean, I don't want to go too far, but take the single fact that she's crying about it and judge her yourself. And Mark clearly feels so terrible because of it. A couple of months is not enough to trust someone with such a serious secret, that's just it. And yeah, he's ignorant too for thinking he can balance a relationship with a superhero lifestyle, but he doesn't deserve to get shit on for it so much. If she knows, why not tell him straight up? She even comes off as entitled too, thinking her time is more important than the actual lives of people. She should have just ended it earlier. I think the communication was bad on both sides, but Amber is so much more of an asshole about it. Mark isn't perfect, but it's completely understandable why he acted the way he did. And you know, he almost fucking died and all of that. This really isn't the best writing ever too, because I don't think Amber's supposed to be an asshole. The reveal of her knowing was probably intended as a show of intelligence, an oh shit moment as well. She seems like a reasonable person, but also ends up being literally nothing but an obstacle for Mark. If you want them to still not be together after the scene where he tells her, just make her not know, since it immediately improves every previous scene by itself, and have her say something like, well, you still lied to me and I can't bear a relationship with a superhero anyway, okay bye. It is however still a plot that naturally keeps you wanting more while it lasts, and it works greatly with the Omni-Man mystery. Why did Omni-Man kill the Guardians of the Globe? It slowly develops along with the rest of the story, with Darkblood, Debbie, Rosenbaum, Donald and Cecil. It doesn't take up that much screen time, but it eventually turns into the main thing. We learn why Nolan actually is on Earth, why he really came here. Nolan's on Earth so he can weaken it and make it easier for it to join Viltrum. That's it. That's why he killed them. And it's also why he doesn't care that much for anyone on Earth. Like he says, this is just a fraction of my long life. And to be frank with you, it's hard to argue with it. It's almost impossible to put yourself in the shoes of someone like that, but still, think about the following. When you're 5 years old, 1 year is literally 20% of your life. But if you're 50, it's 2%. Now take that to the extreme and make it a basically insignificant fraction. It only makes sense that he'd think the way he does. Not that it justifies it, but it's understandable at the very least. Not to mention that this isn't even his planet. Imagine for a second if you were on an alien planet, would you honestly be just as compassionate and caring as you are for Earth? Would you put it over your home planet even if your people were in the wrong? I don't think it's an easy answer. But he also goes a little too far in the last episode. It's not the most edgy thing I've ever seen, but it's definitely up there. Him actually killing so many people, using Mark's body to do it, making him watch and calling his wife a pet.
I do love your mother, but She's more like a pet to me.
The fight between him and Mark as a whole is so brutal and unfortunate. It finally shows that Omni-Man is more of a villain than a hero, but also a complex character nonetheless, since he does struggle with it. It's almost as if he's arguing with himself about whether he's loyal to Viltrum or not, rather than with Mark. The flashbacks at the end really solidify it, along with the fact that he leaves his post, a Viltrumite leaving his post. Alan the alien explains that it's extremely rare, and it brings up the reassuring or maybe scary idea, depending on how you look at it, that Omni-Man is in fact one of the kindest Viltrumites. Another relatively major part of the story, Robot. We follow his whole master plan and yet we never really get what he's going for, at least I didn't. He helps the Moller twins break out and takes Rex's DNA, all because he's not actually a robot. He's controlling one and he wants a real body. So he gets the twins to make it for him, ironically so, since he's pretty much the perfect actor for a robot, due to him being disassociated from people after spending his life in a damn jar, using a body that isn't his own. It's also why he relates to Monster Girl so much. He notices she finds Rex, as he puts it, interesting, so he models his body after Rex's younger self. It's so perfect, Robot doesn't realize how fucking weird this is. I also love the actual transferring of his consciousness. It was definitely the most disturbing part of the show for me. Not the act itself, that was barely anything compared to the idea. That about how you wouldn't really transfer your consciousness but rather duplicate it. You would die and another person that's the same as you will be born in a different body. The game so much explored the idea too. It's always been something that's deeply unsettled me. A more minor part of the story, Adam Eve's philosophy on superherodom. It's simple, she actually uses her powers how you would expect someone realistically would in order to maximize their humanity's saving potential. I do have a bone to pick with Invincible's world building, however. You can't convince me that with how freaking dangerous this world is for normal people, with so many alien invasions and stuff and dragon attacks, more of them aren't completely terrified to walk on the street, and that the majority doesn't end up just working from home if they can. And holy shit, is the character design in this show not fucking amazing. Every single one's haircut and clothes and generally everything is so damn memorable. Same with their actual character. I don't think there was anyone that was filler or anything like that. They're all extremely unique. Next I will be talking about Monster Girl and also about pedophilia, so if you're sensitive to that, make sure to skip over the segment. Anyway, her whole age thing definitely bothered me. It's literally the damn 500-year-old dragon, but she looks like she's 12th trope from anime, just taken down a notch. I'm not saying it was copied from it, the comics are pretty old, it's still similar though. You could honestly argue somewhat that it's troubling even if they don't sexualize it, though I might err on the side that it's fine. But that doesn't matter because they do kinda sexualize it, with her making all the dick comments about Rex. I know it's her making the comments about him and not the other way around, but hey, a writer still wrote it. And not to get into a damn 10-minute discussion about why pedophilia is immoral, but long story short, it's because a child's mind can't consent. It doesn't have anything to do with their body. So you could say that it's technically okay since she's 25, and I guess I'd have to agree. And yeah, therefore both you and me would also have to be okay with a 20-year-old character that looks 12 doing anything and everything that a normal 20-year-old might do. Even a sex scene that's simply done for the fuck of it. Literally. Just a note, I mean okay as in intrinsically morally neutral. You could still argue that it encourages weirdos, that's something else entirely though. You could also argue that portraying these stuff without really shunning them is okay because we portray violence and murder and even rape all the time. But as a society, we're more sensitive to kid stuff. That's just how it is. It's not the most logical thing in the world, but it's easily shown to be true. You can find dozens of gore sites on the internet with murder videos and the like, but child pornography is strictly policed like nothing else in the world. And my stance on Invincible is similar. It isn't the most logical, and I'm not saying it's immoral to show it. It's just a thing that makes me go, oh really man, that's what we're doing now? Great. It doesn't even creep me out, it's just stupid. It also attracts a weird fanbase, the I'm not a pedophile but type of people. For how much some animation and comic fans tend to shit on anime fans, they're real damn quick to invent the actually she's X years old so it's okay argument. And besides, I see no damn reason for doing it because so far we haven't really explored her age thing almost at all. We haven't seen her struggles with trying to date older looking people, only a little comment about it, which is a seriously creepy idea if I've ever had one. I can already imagine the real life parallels people might draw from that. The drawbacks of getting younger and younger as she uses her powers are pretty much non-existent, and that could have been easily replaced with her, you know, just getting weaker. I see how the age thing is a cool idea and all, but I can personally think of some other cool concepts as well, that I probably wouldn't be able to say and don't want to, so I don't think it's a good justification. Speaking of the getting younger part, how the hell does that work? If she's stagnating, then why not wait a couple of years? I know superheroes are needed, but still. And if she's actually getting younger by the day, then she needs to do something about it, obviously. Finally, her relationship with Rudolph and both of them being mature people stuck in younger bodies is... I don't even know, I can't see how this could possibly yield anything interesting. Anything that could make it different from the portrayal of a relationship of two real children that at least I can think of is fucking weird. It might get some good exploration down the line, but I doubt it. If you have speculations about the show as a show-only fan, then drop it down in the comments, I'm actually interested. Please no spoilers from comic readers though. Well, that was a weird segment, sorry about that. Next, the animation. I love it. It's your classic, very clean kids cartoon style with a lot of gore. It's a great contrast, the kind of minimalistic art style combined with the times where guts and brains are flying everywhere and there's hundreds of them on your screen at a time. The tone also feels so uncanny, it's like seeing one of those ridiculous SpongeBob gangster drawings. With risk sounding weird, just the blood itself was clearly animated with so much care, and they keep one-upping the gore again and again, so by the end we have something that could rival any game or movie or anything. And the brief moments where they really upped the budget were amazing. One thing you could complain about is the CGI though. It really isn't the best, and you can notice very early on with the far out shots. That's still bad, but later there are some close-up ones of it and it straight up looks like a 2002 video game. It's not the end of the world, but still. Something that is the audio mixing. What the fuck? There are two things that I can't watch without headphones, porn and Invincible. The weird thing is the former is better since it doesn't pose any threats to my health. With Invincible, the volume for fight scenes is 10 times louder than the damn voices. If I try to watch it with speakers, I have to constantly turn the volume up and down and risk a possible heart attack if a fight scene suddenly breaks out. Oh, and the soundtrack was cool. The rap songs in particular fit in perfectly, especially with characters like the Mulder twins. The voice acting was all around great too, though Omni-Man and Mark stood out especially.
Why did you make me do this? You're fighting so you can watch everyone around you die! Think, Mark!
I don't give a shit about Viltrum. And I don't care if I live a fucking million years. This is my home, and I won't let you destroy it.
You don't know what you're saying. And I can't let you interfere.
In conclusion, Invincible was an amazing watch. I'm so glad it's been renewed for 2 more seasons. The tone of the whole thing is so much up my alley. The seriousness of it, the gore, it's just ridiculous. I don't want to say I've been waiting for a show like this, but I have been. It's very rare that something manages to disturb or shock me even at all, and I'm not trying to flaunt about it. It's more negative than anything. It can take away from my enjoyment. But hey, Invincible scratches that itch a little at the very least. And that's why I'm gonna give its first season a medium 9 out of 10. Thank you for watching this shorter video. Make sure to ring the bell, share, like, comment, watch my other videos and all of that. Check out my rating list if you're interested. I also keep all my video ideas and what I'm currently working on there. It's linked on my channel. And as always, subscribe if you like this type of content and want to see more of it. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next video.